The annual State of Media Freedom report for 2024 released by the Media Rights Agenda MRA says security agencies, including the police, military and intelligence services, have consistently been the worst enemies of the media in Nigeria in recent years and were responsible for the highest number of attacks against journalists this year, 2024. MRA noted that in the 137-page report titled Media Freedom Under Threat, the State of Media Freedom and Journalist Safety in Nigeria 2024. It noted that out of a total of 64 attacks against journalists that it recorded in 2022, law enforcement and security agencies were responsible for 29, representing approximately 45% of the attacks, while they were responsible for 34 out of the 77 attacks against journalists it documented in 2023, representing approximately 44%. Worrying numbers there. Now, to discuss this, we're joined by media practitioner Jimi Aina. Jimi, thank you for joining us. Let's just get started. How does the role of security agencies in Nigeria conflict with the fundamental principles of press freedom as enshrined in the Nigerian Constitution, as well as international human rights law? Just look at it, all triad. And the people who are supposed to be upholding the human rights seem to be the ones arresting.
Thanks for having me. One thing is that I think over the years, we haven't been able to purge ourselves of what we used to have in the past, especially during the military rule. A lot of journalists were harassed. Many of them died, assassinated, for and up to now that we are in a democratic setting, I think most of the security agencies, they still find it really hard. They still think or believe that, we're still operating in the former environment where, they could go ahead and harass and, of course, intimidate and sometimes even threaten journalists. If you look at the MRA report, you could see how terrible it got from 2020 to 2023, and now 2024. 64% is what I think security agencies were responsible for attacking journalists, and it's troubling because at this point in time, in this age and time, we thought that the police, the army, all the security agencies will have a better understanding of how to deal with journalists, knowing that journalists are there to help them operate or do their work properly, and no one is a threat to them, I don't believe that a journalist will have something that might threaten national security and go ahead to publish. And we know how it is in all, whether it's broadcast media or print media, you always have editors, you have people who look at your work before it goes out. So in all of that, with many of the security agencies still having threatening journalists and harassing them, the rest, I think it's disheartening to hear that things like this are happening. And I'm hoping that, for instance, the Inspector General of Police, and the Chief of Army Staff, the Chief of Defense, and the rest of the head of most of the security agencies will do more, especially with this report, with the emergence of this report, in find a way for journalists and journalists and security agencies to work together. There should be a synergy between both parties. Not what we're having, where this report is really, really concerning, I must tell.
Right. And it begs to ask the question about, the challenges that journalists face when attempting to access information related to security operations. And how can the media be empowered to overcome these obstacles while respecting national security concerns as well?
The media should be, of course, reporter journalists should be empowered. The whole talk about us being the fourth realm of the fourth aspect of the realm, I think there should be more emphasis on that. They should recognize that the power of the pen, and journalists reporting of what's going on around the country, whether it's security, whether it's general issues, especially security anyway, I think I would go as far as suggesting that probably we could even have a legislative or legislative policies or laws that could help journalists do their job better. Just having it enshrined in the Constitution and everybody ignores it and stuff. I think we need something different at this point in time, and probably maybe it should come from journalists. Pressuring legislators or find a way to come up with something that is more pronounced, that is out there to protect journalists when we're doing our job. And I think that will go. And of course, as I mentioned earlier on, I think orientation is also important. Because every time you go out there, do your job as a journalist, there's always, especially when it comes to protests and the rest, there's always that threat. There's always that fear that the police may do something. I had a terrible experience in 2021 where, during the Yoruba Nation protest at Ojota, where one of the agitators approached the police with a letter, trying to calm things down. And while we, of course, as journalists, were expected to document, but while we're recording the conversation between the police and, of course, the agitators, out of nowhere, a police officer dropped a tear gas in our midst, causing a stampede where everybody, I couldn't even find my cameraman that day, and it led to the loss of personnel and even some of office equipment. We lost our GoPro and some equipment. So what I'm saying is that, with journalists around that, and with a lot of journalists around there, that respect should come that they are doing their job and we need to be protected. So I would suggest, I believe that the rest of maybe the NPAN, the proprietor, the body responsible for print media, the Broadcast Organization of Nigeria, we should have a unifying factor where we could push ahead to have something that is more pronounced, a law that protects us, so that we don't go out there with fear, especially when we're covering security matters, security issues. We go out there and we're not scared of doing our job because you have the police or any other security agencies threatening us.
And lastly, just to talk about, the restrictions on reporting and its effect when it comes to transparency in government operations and the public's right to know about security matters. Talk to me on this too as we wrap up this conversation.
Of course, the public has every right to know what's going on. Again, I think what is national security? What is national security? I think that should be well defined. What threatens national security? Because as a journalist, I'm writing something concerning probably some, things that some security agencies are doing. For instance, let me pick Saya Soyinbo, investigative journalist. What did at the border concerning the custom? Is that a threat to national security? Ask the question. Because then he's been locked up, he's been threatened, and of course, when he also went to do his job and he was caught and accused of helping, oil thieves, things like that. So exactly, let's define it. What exactly, when does my job threatens national security? That should be, because again, the public needs to hear about things that's going on. The public needs to have a clear picture of how, some of those issues going on, the fight against the insurgents, the bandits, and the rest, But it's not forthcoming because, again, you have the military not giving information. Many of them are not willing to work with journalists to clear the air on some issues. And of course, I have to do my job. I have to write. The little I have to tell the public, and because then you want the public outcry in order to change the narrative of some of these things that's going on, So really, I think whatever it is, the whole harassment, threat, and the rest, we will just be doing our job. And that job means informing the public about issues that concerns them and, of course, the nation.
Well, I must say thank you so much for taking out the time, Jimi, just to have this conversation with us. Thank you for doing this with us. Jimi is a media practitioner just talking to us on the state of press freedom in Nigeria.